right, aloha, Tulsi-crats, Bernie-crats, free radicals of all shapes, sizes, colors, orientations, whatever you are, whoever you are, we care about you here at the Radical Independent, and we do videos for people, ordinary, average people who are sick and tired of the political establishment. My name is Dave. I am very supportive of Tulsi Gabbard, and I continue to be. This debate, as predicted by everybody who has a brain and a few minor insights into what's happening around us, the debate was pretty much a dog and pony show, and it was sponsored by Big Pharma and companies that underpay their employees. I tweeted that out and got quite a bit of response, especially when they cut to a commercial break so McDonald's can tell you about all their great new food that they have out there and how they don't pay their workers and setting up a kiosk here and there to try to eliminate workers altogether. I guess that speaks to Andrew Yang's platform a little bit more, but in any event, it's just corporate nonsense, and it's all designed to completely give you the impression that certain things are happening around you that really aren't. Okay, that's what the entire debate experience is all about. And if you look at this graphic that Tulsi Gabbard put up here about an hour ago, you have to kind of shake your head and you have to say to yourself, well, how come Tulsi Gabbard only gets 8 minutes? Seriously, you've got two candidates here who could break the glass ceiling, Warren and Gabbard. We know that Warren is a former Republican, and a hardcore one at that, at one time. Not to say that, I came from the right, so I can kind of spot them when they come from the right. And she's certainly done a pivot, and she had to, again, people do that when they run for office in the state of Massachusetts, is they tend to pivot a little bit in order to capture a certain voting block. And she actually took out a populist when she won, because she tried to be more populist than him. And I think I'm talking about Scott Brown, if I'm not mistaken, who was the senator from Massachusetts. In any event, it's mind-boggling when you look at this graphic. In October, it's 23-8. Okay, and Warren got a ton of speaking time, almost as if she had to answer for everything that was happening on the stage. Imagine what Tulsi Gabbard could have done with 23 minutes. Now, with apologies to my friends over on The Hill, the show called Rising, I don't think Tulsi necessarily had her weakest debate performance. I think what happened was that Tulsi Gabbard wasn't given a lot to work with. And when you cut to a commercial break, when somebody is trying to call out the person that got the 23 minutes, and rightfully so, because the nominee, whoever that is, needs to be able to take the heat from everybody. They need to be vetted. So even if you say you agree with everything Elizabeth Warren says, don't you want to know if she's got thick skin and she can handle a tough question? Because Trump doesn't care. Trump will break every rule when it comes to debating. And people will say, well, he's not fair the way he's debating. Well, how do you think he won the last time around? How do you think he beat all those Republicans the last time around? And people are just, they're thinking, well, he's so stupid and it's going to be so easy. That's what Hillary thought, right? And the other issue is none of these people, if you've got Warren against Trump, you're going to get nothing substantial on foreign policy. You're going to get really nothing. You think you're going to get with Warren, you're going to get a big overhaul to the healthcare system. I think you're going to end up with an Obamacare type thing again. And I've had personal experience with the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. And it's just all I could tell you, I boil it down to one sentence. It was a big, big payoff to the insurance companies, to the private insurance companies. The ones, some progressive hosts are mincing and slicing and dicing Medicare choice. We can't have that, Tulsi. You're done. Meanwhile, that plan is like light years better than what you'll probably end up with Elizabeth Warren. But you progressive people, you smart progressive tribalists, just jump off the train because you never liked Tulsi to begin with. You don't like the fact that Tulsi serves in the military. You don't like the fact that maybe Tulsi wants a few restrictions on super late term abortions. Sorry, I do too. Most normal human beings think that that's disgusting. Okay, most. Okay, I know there are a few extenuating circumstances here and there, but I don't want to spend time on abortion, believe me. I mean, she's still pro-choice. She's just trying to find a policy that suits the heart of this country. I mean, if you watch progressive channels, you would think that abortion is like the holy grail of everything, and that everybody thinks the exact same way on that issue. And that is probably the dumbest blind spot I've ever seen within the progressive movement. It's like people saying that immigration isn't important to people on the left. Like some kind of immigration policy, not an open borders policy. Bernie and Tulsi, by the way, don't advocate for open borders. I think people like Julian Castro do, and I think that policy would never fly. It would never fly because you're going to put all kinds of new burdens on border states, and you need to know who's coming through your front door. It's common sense. So we look at the September debate. This is a great stat because we see Warren at 17 minutes, Tulsi at 0 because she wasn't there. Oh, why? Well, because the DNC used arbitrary polling data to exclude Tulsi Gabbard from that debate, even though after the July debate, Tulsi was raising quite a bit of money. Now, what's also interesting is that all that time elapsed after that, and they weren't doing any consistent polling. They would take a poll, and it's really tragic how that all went down. But again, Warren gets 17 minutes, Gabbard gets 0. And by the way, she might have come out better not being there because then she had enough support to get into the October debate. It's almost like the DNC is like, okay, down, Tulsi, down. Oh, all right, she's back again, and we gotta suppress again, and they're making calls. They're calling folks in different media platforms saying, that algorithm you guys use, can you tweak that a little bit for just put Tulsi and hate speech, and maybe some radical people on the right who like her, and just combine all of those elements so when people do a search, it winds up. And I've done this myself. I have searched for certain candidates, and other names start appearing right alongside. Like I can't find the name I'm looking for, but say I do a search for Tulsi Gabbard, and for some reason Beto O'Rourke pops up. I'm like, I didn't search for Beto O'Rourke. I don't want to look anything. Beto O'Rourke, I'd rather have, the root canal than support Beto O'Rourke. I really would. Anyway, July. Now, July, if you recall, Tulsi Gabbard wiped the floor with everybody, and she was the most talked about candidate, not even close. I believe in all 50 states, except for maybe one state or something like that. Tulsi Gabbard got 11 minutes. Warren got 19. And this is right when, the media started to coronate Warren. Well, we're going to give her... And you notice Warren went from 10 minutes to 19 minutes. So she picked up 9 additional minutes. Again, because the media has decided, well, we can't have Bernie. And Kamala, we like Kamala. And by the way, Kamala was taken out during this debate. But we think Warren is probably the best choice. And it's funny how they settled on Warren, because Warren, again, is this white, privileged, and again, this feeds into the identity politics, which I don't do, but I'm talking about the irony here, is that she's this ivory tower, disconnected, Harvard professor. Again, a lot of people just don't relate to that. I know people in the Northeast love it. That's why she's a senator in Massachusetts, and she beat Scott Brown, who, again, was a populist. I mean, you may not like Scott Brown, but Scott Brown was not a radical right-wing Republican, all right? He was a populist, and he got taken out by Warren, who outflanked him on the populism, but again started to paint him as this radical extremist, blah, blah, blah. And I don't care what party you're in. If you're a populist and you're actually speaking for the little guy, you should have a seat at the table, because we are the people doing the electing. We're the ones that have to suffer. But when you've got the Route 128 belt going around Boston, and some of the most concentrated wealth, not just in the United States, but on planet Earth, okay, in that belt. You can read about it. I think Thomas Frank talks about that. And you've got a candidate coming from the meritocracy who wants to run the country, who, if you don't think, isn't going to just prop up all of the big tech and all of these industries where some people just, I'm not there. There are a lot of people in life that grow up and they're just like, I have no interest in these fields. You know, I just want to do this manual labor because I like to do it. I like to work with my hands. I mean, I live in Florida. We need HVAC and construction and plumbing and all these things that people never talk about anymore. All they talk about is high tech, high tech. Robots aren't going to be able to build houses, I don't think, anytime soon. You still need laborers. You still need workers. If you're going to do this more open-ended immigration policy, here are some jobs that people can do. Okay, they can come to this country, they can vet it properly, and then go into the field and do these jobs. Okay, but what candidate is actually supporting blue-collar workers? Right now, it's Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders. And that's it. As much as I like Andrew Yang, I think Yang comes off very wonky. And again, I think he's more of this, I don't know what you want to call him, sort of like new breed. He is an interesting candidate, and he would be far better than your typical establishment candidate. But I just don't see him representing minorities and certain groups of people. Even though he is a minority, I think he just lacks that connection that a Gabbard or a Sanders. Biden, I think, has more of a connection with minorities because of the leftover nostalgia from the Obama presidency. We go back to June. Warren's at 10 minutes and Tulsi's at 7. That's when the playing field was kind of level, but you still see there's a slight gap between the 7 and 10. By the way, the June debate was the one where Tulsi again came out of nowhere and was the most talked about and most searched candidate. So for 2 debates in a row, Tulsi was the most talked about, the most searched out candidate via Google. Okay, you know what's funny too? The graphic here, I don't know if they did it on purpose, but they gave Warren the red line and Tulsi the blue line. That might be a little dig at, she was a Republican at one time. Tulsi's been always a Democrat. But those, a lot of those Democrats, those people just think that, you know, Tulsi is an imposter. She's not really a Democrat. She's really a Republican because she's pro-military. Well, she serves in the military, so I think she's kind of got to be somewhat pro-military. And I know just intrinsically, they look at that and they say, well, this shows you that she's really a warmonger. They just don't know what to do with her. So I think this graph was very illustrative. It really showed what we're up against. And Tulsi's sister, Vrindavan, I think is how you say her name, and hopefully I didn't butcher that. A really cool name, by the way. Claims DNC, she writes, DNC corporate media claims we're not rigging anything. Really? Look, you could buy some of their defensiveness if they hadn't rigged before, but they rigged in 2016. Somebody needs to write a book about, just like a whole book about how, maybe there's already a book out there, and how they stole the nomination from Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders would be the president right now, and we would probably be drawing down troops in different places. There would be protections that have been put in place, both for the banking industry and for the environment, rather than those things being, you know, like the Wild West, like they are now with Trump. There may actually have been a a large tax on wealthy people implemented. So again, the poor, the working poor, the middle class can maybe start to try to climb that ladder again without working 2 or 3 jobs and without being squeezed on how much rent they have to pay. There might be rent control implemented. There'd be real, actual legislation that would help people. Okay? And again, this is economic populism. For those of you who want to use the S word and tell me this is what the S word is, and it's not the 4-letter S word, I am, again, going to rail against you and say, just explain it to people in terms of how it will benefit them, how they'll actually be better off with a Bernie Sanders or a Tulsi Gabbard. And you don't have to put it into isms or any, economic system other than the fact that it is essentially the free market with some tight controls. It's an overhauled free market. It's a free market where greed doesn't run rampant. And that's what it is. So, tangent there. Sorry. Do you think the debates are being rigged? Sure they are. I mean, any objective person that wants to look at how media manipulation affects outcome, all right, any objective person who looks at this and says, well, the media does talk a lot about Elizabeth Warren for some reason. All of a sudden, she was the one they kept talking about. They kept going. It was like they went from Beto over to Mayor Pete, and then, Bernie's doing well, so let's go over to Warren. And Warren, by the way, I'm going to say this, and I'm hoping I'm right, but I'm using some common sense here. Warren has nowhere to go but down. She's got nowhere. She's not going to go up too much more. You're seeing that in Iowa, where you've got Biden. This is interesting. You get Biden, Sanders, and Warren statistically in a dead heat, with little Mayor Pete not too far behind. Tulsi, last time I checked, in the last poll, I think it was 2 or 3%. But in one poll, they had Tulsi at like 6%. And those numbers are all going to go until the votes are actually cast. I still think there's a possibility when the votes are cast, all of the Sanders and Gabbard supporters are going to vote. All of the other people are soft, especially with Warren and Mayor Pete and Biden. I think all 3 of those are very soft votes. So we shall see once the votes are cast, and I'm going to continue doing this channel until votes get cast. And I'll keep going after, but I'm saying I'll keep supporting Tulsi Gabbard and talking about the fact that this entire presidential campaign is steering. If they see Tulsi up ahead, they're doing this. They're steering in the opposite direction. They're trying to get away. But you're not going to get away from people who love Tulsi Gabbard because she represents something that is really missing in politics today, and that is integrity and truth-telling, and telling hard truths, both to the left and the right, by the way. I mean, if you can do something on an issue, Tulsi Gabbard will be the first one up there trying to do something about it. But there are some hard truths, and Tulsi Gabbard tells those, and she does it at her own peril, unfortunately, because people would rather have you go along with the current government, which is buried underneath the presidency. It's buried underground. If you want to look at it as the Pentagon or some bunker somewhere. And by the way, this is just a metaphor, folks. Okay? I'm not advocating that there's, a little command center somewhere, but it wouldn't surprise me if there was one. Pushing buttons and telling people what to do and what to say. Warren will align with those people. Again, one of Warren's biggest contributors and I would say, helpers in her own state would be Raytheon. Okay, and if you don't think that's true, all you got to do is look at geography and where certain candidates live, and I guarantee you that's why Warren never says, "Hey, we're gonna do big drawdowns on troops." What we're gonna do instead is make the military green, because that will solve all of our problems globally, and we'll continue to fight wars with countries that we should be cooperating with. And therefore, if you believe in any sort of man-made climate change, we're going to do exactly the opposite to fix that problem. Whereas Tulsi Gabbard has an actionable plan called the Off Fossil Fuels Act. I don't know. It's really, it does get discouraging because I can see it and you can see it and we both see it at the same time, and we're both like over on Twitter yelling at people, not yelling, but just kind of like, why don't other people see this? But instead, they'll come at you and say, you're a bot. You're a bot. Do you work for Vladimir Putin? Are you Russian? Oh, you watch RT? that we understand that now. Okay. And they just discount you like you're some moron from another planet. And you have to sit there and go, I'm just a guy with kids and a wife, and I live in a house, and I drive a car, and I care about our future, our planet, the way we interact with each other. I care about that. I know there are a lot of people on the left that just want to hurl Molotov cocktails at people. And I almost mean that in a literal sense. But I'll just say they want to do it in a verbal way. They want to smack you down. And if you don't belong to their little club of, I don't want to say, I'll just say of negative thinking all the time and thinking the worst of people. Trump supporters, for instance, that they're all in this category. You know what? You know how Trump won? Trump won because people had nowhere else to go. They could have gone with Jill Stein, yes. And a lot of people always point that to me. And this time around, if it doesn't work out where we have a candidate that we can support and be enthusiastic about, then we all collectively need to invade the Green Party or whatever party it is and prop it up and make it a party of all 50 states, a viable third option where economic populism is, the theme. And at that point, we try to just infiltrate and use democracy again and actually win something for the forgotten men and women of this country. And especially the people we keep sending into harm's way to do the work of big corporations, because that's what it amounts to. All right, so I'm done with this video. Thanks for watching. Again, if you can help me out, I've been getting hit on the demonetization. They will demonetize a video for almost 2 days. And again, I make most of my revenue really within the first 12 to 24 hours on a video. If you see a video and, I haven't complained about it being demonetized, go ahead and put it on repeat play. Walk away. You just leave your computer on. Just put it on repeat play and put it on an endless loop cycle or something. There's got to be a way to do it. And maybe that'll help me out. I don't have 100,000 subscribers. I am very thankful for the 6,000 plus because I never thought I'd get over 1,000. So it's pretty cool. But if you can help me out, again, over on Patreon or via PayPal with one-time donations, I've gotten a few over the last few days. And I just want to thank everybody for doing that because it's your money and you could spend it on anything. And you've sent it to me. But I can tell you, honestly, this channel has gone down. Let me just give you a number. The revenue stream was $300 higher 2 to 3 weeks ago. So that's a good chunk of change. Who knows? I don't know. Again, the algorithms are they're doing their own thing. And they recognize what I'm doing and what you're saying and what you're doing. And thus we are unusual Americans. Can't wait to get my shirt. All right. See you soon.